Oh, okay. Okay, I got this on mute, I think. Oh, no, I didn't. It's back on.
We probably need to stay on mute for a while.
Oh. Can you hear us though, Whitney?
Okay, yeah, can you hear us?
Okay, we're on
Okay,
mute
we
for
gotta
a
stay
minute.
on mute.
Can you hear us, Dave?
Oh, yeah, I can hear now.
We were on mute, we're staying on mute to check the sound.
Whitney, your hair looks fabulous.
Thank you. That's very nice. I like yours too. It's short now. Looks good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could, minimize the screen there and see if the YouTube is going. Yeah, minimize that. And see,
Looks like
see,
it.
we're on live stream, so we're good. Pop it back up there.
Oh, and then-
We are on live streaming. This meeting will officially be in order because we have a quorum, so we can get started. There's Mr. Brinkleman logged in, coming in. Thank y'all. First order is for minutes. Ms. Guffey.
Yes, everybody should have got October's minutes. Does anybody have any changes that they would like to make at this time? Okay, motion to accept the minutes.
Yeah, okay, need a second?
Second.
All right, motion is second for the minutes as written. Janessa, she in yet?
Yeah.
All right, got you. We can hear you. You can hear us. Wonderful.
Yes.
All in favor of the minutes as written? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. No nays? And Sydney, you keep having that virtual background there. It's always like that. Okay, finance, oh, I'm sorry, operations. Kelly.
Operations, LSWs this month were 7 for applications. CSW 66, LCSW 106. We don't have any renewals this month. Temporary permits, clinical 3, non-clinical 1. And total number of active licenses are 8,465. I have done 4 sponsorships this month.
Okay.
Also, I want to remind everybody about the exam prep. That's January 9th and 10th. Registration is open and we've already got some people that have registered and it looks like it's going to shape up to be a good one.
Okay, all right, and kind of following up on that, survey was sent out to the ones that participated in June. We got some response from that, still open, so we may get some before the next meeting. But the initial respondents, there were 8 people, 9 responses. 6 had taken the exam, 6 had taken the exam and passed it, and they, go on. They all, but everybody said the workshop was helpful for them, so. There were 4 on that list that the emails were bounced, so, couldn't get full. But anyway, maybe we'll have some more response to that next week. Just want to make sure everybody knows we're still transitioning into the new system and it has not been as clean as we would like for it to have been. There have been all kinds of issues and staff is aware of them. We're working with Tyler Technologies to get them fixed. It seems that some people came into the system and it automatically expired their license, so we've had to manually correct those and get verifications out. So staff has kind of been flooded with all of that. And again, it's not like we're trying to ignore it. We're trying to do the best we can, looking at different options about how to do it. So we're still working on that. And it's kind of one of those things. We had a couple of things we didn't think of ahead of time that created the problem. Because that if we had thought of, we could have fixed it before, but we didn't think about it until we ran into the problem. So we're trying to fix those. But if anybody has any issues, please let us know. We're doing the best we can to work through the queue of phone calls and emails and myself included to try to get this resolved. So we're don't want anybody to stress out if your license was renewed. We'll find it, we'll get it done, so you don't lose your job or anything. We don't want any of that to happen, and really apologize for that, but everything seemed to be good when we started, and we ran into these afterwards, and some that, because a couple of things we didn't think about, and then the other pieces, Tyler didn't get done for us and working on.
And for our viewers and, our licensees, when staff refers you to our IT people, it's not because that we don't want to be involved in the situation. It's because what's happening is an IT issue.
Right.
And we have sent out a lot of help links, and we have a lot of people that call and they think we're the administrators of the site. And we are not the administrators of the site. Tyler Technology is.
Right.
So we're not trying to hand you off because we don't want to intervene. We would love to be able to intervene for you.
Right.
But we're just unable to, and it takes the IT team to be able to resolve those issues for you.
Right, and it's the tickets that go to the help desk that tells Tyler what the issues are. So,
Right.
it's a double communication. We can tell them, but if the licensee does the ticket, then it direct to Tyler that this is an issue for me, so that we can try to get it fixed.
We're going as fast as we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, staff really are with it. So, again, we thank everybody for their patience on this. Like I said, just to kind of give you the background, our previous system crashed, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And we were told at that point it would happen again. And that was a lot of work to recover from that crash. And we were told it was too old, that we had to move to a new system. And so since we're paying money out for this, we're trying to make sure we hold their Tyler Technology to get it all fixed for us. So thank you for all of that. Thanks staff for their continued patience, which I'm not to make. Mark didn't lose his hair. He's just got short, he don't,
Yeah.
so he
I had a bad day.
had a bad day there. He did lose his hair over it, yeah.
Yeah.
We're done. So we're trying to do as best we can, on that. All right, moving on to Finance Committee.
Hey, all right. Hello, everybody. So, our financial information for October 2025, we'll start with our current cash balance, which is $673,472.75. Our appropriations for the year, our total appropriations are $838,600 for the fiscal year. To date, we have expended $172,976.83, which represents about 21% of our allotted appropriations. So we're in good shape. We've gone through about 40% of the year, and we've spent about 21% of our budget. So monthly information, and also the full revenue information. So revenues to date, $172,285.13. And our revenue for October 2025 is $37,025. I think I've already said our full expenditures to date were $172,976.83. And the October expenditures are $49,951.08.
Good.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? And then we need to, the committee would move to approve the per diem for, I'm looking for my agenda. I'm having trouble pulling that up, but I know we need to approve the per diem for this meeting.
All right, so, motion is from the committee of more than one, so motion's on the floor. Any questions on per diem for today? All in favor? Aye.
Nay.
I didn't hear the second.
Aye.
Actually, a second, it's
Oh, okay.
committee too, because Kwan's on the committee now, so Woody doesn't have to have a second for her motion.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
say that Dr. Cassidy K. Wood took me under the learning tree and smartened me up on some things, but I wasn't quite ready to report out yet, but she got me together.
That's quite all right.
You're on there.
Part of your continued orientation to the board.
Right.
I'll learn smart.
Remember that.
Okay, good.
And then I know we had some other things from the committee, and again, I can't seem to locate my agenda because the other items were listed, so.
The second was a per diem for my travel for the legislation meeting, so,
Yes.
that was for to meet with, Market. Chose Lyons to, Chair Everett for the social work bill, so.
Yes. So the committee would recommend that we reimburse the chair for his travel expenses.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Thank you. All right, anything else?
Well, to clarify, as a member of the committee, do I no longer need to say aye or vote?
Oh, no, you still say aye.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yes, sir, you still, only vote, you always vote. You can vote yes or no. Okay.
I vote
All
against
right.
my own self-interest.
Uh,
No, I won't do that.
You can, but, yeah, wouldn't be the first time people have done that. All right, applications committee. Applications, anything?
Okay, so, me and Janessa were just talking, cause I think there's some things that we still want to talk about on the application. So we're gonna move, we may not wait till the next meeting to approve it, but there's some things that we want to review first.
Okay, all right. Good.
We only had one application this month.
Okay, all right, okay, good, moving on, we, got an item under new business that'll come back from the applications committee, so we'll check on that, I'll explain that when we get there. All right, complaint committee,
All right, we have several to report on today. The first one is case number 2578. The alleged violation was client abandonment. And the committee reviewed the information, and in case number 2578, the complaint committee moves to dismiss the case, finding insufficient evidence to support the initiating complaint.
questions? All in favor of dismissal? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
okay,
The second is case number 2584. The alleged violation is dual relationship or boundary violations. And in this case, case number 2584, the complaint committee moves to have further investigation of the initiating complaint by the contracted investigator and seeks the board's authorization to approve that expense. So we felt like we need some more information to really make a decision in that case, and are asking for your support in contracting with Dan Carney, who's our board of investigator.
questions? Again, motion from committee of more than one, aye, or in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we have a few like that this month that we're going to request referring for investigation, just to ensure that we have the complete picture of the circumstances and make sure that we handle the cases appropriately. Case number 2593 and case number 25108 are connected. Same allegation, that are complaints entered by two different people. One was the client and one was another service provider, who the client disclosed this information to. The complaint alleged, dual relationship or boundary violations. And so in the cases of 2593 and 25108, the complaint committee moves to request further investigation of the initiating complaint by the contracted investigator and seeks the board's authorization of this expense.
Just a point of information to note that the case numbers 93 and 108. We are ahead of last year's numbers. As you didn't know, we had a total of 88 complaints last year. So just so everybody knows that those numbers say we're ahead.
Mhm.
Okay, so any questions about sending these two cases for further investigation by our investigator? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, case number 2594, the alleged violation is falsifying documents. We have some information, but we didn't really have quite enough. So in case number 2594, the complaint committee moves to request further investigation of the initiating complaint by the contracted investigator and seeks the board's authorization of the expense.
Another issue, what we need further information, we don't have enough to make a determination yet. All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
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 Okay, case number 2595. This was a custody case. And I'm trying to remember exactly what the alleged violation was. I think that's the one. The allegation was that the social worker was taking sides in a custody case. So based on the information that we had, the complaint committee moves to dismiss due to insufficient evidence to support the initiating complaint.
the licensee's response indicated that steps were taken to make the referral and that there was no issues on that side. So that's why we're recommending dismissal. Questions? All in favor of dismissal? Aye,
Aye.
All right, case number 25101. The alleged violation was failure to report child abuse. Based on the information that we had in KBS case number 25101, the complaint committee moves to dismiss due to insufficient evidence to support the initiating complaint. So there was not evidence of this happening, and the person alleged licensee is actually not even currently licensed and hasn't been for some time. So
retired, so.
right, we wouldn't even have jurisdiction over that person.
Jurisdiction, really. So. All in favor of
This is
dismissal?
Mark. May I interrupt and ask a question about that case?
Sure.
First of all, a statement. The individual is a retired social worker, has not held a credential from the board, but yet we got a complaint. So the board doesn't have authority over their license because they don't have a license. However, any person has a duty to report suspected child abuse or neglect. I don't recall if there was a recommendation from the committee to just simply refer it to the local county attorney for a possible case by the county attorney.
I think what we discussed in our committee meeting is that we didn't really have any evidence to indicate that that is
Yeah.
what was happening. It appeared to be a family dispute, and we didn't really have evidence to support that, but we absolutely would recommend that if we had any inkling that that was necessary or,
That there's harm.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of dismissal? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, case number 2502. This alleged violation was a dual relationship or boundary violation. In this case, also, we didn't feel like we really had enough information to make a solid recommendation. So in case number 25-102, the complaint committee requests further investigation of the initiating complaint by the contracted investigator and seeks the board's authorization of the expense.
questions? All in favor of investigating? Aye,
Aye.
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 Okay, we have two more. Case number 25103. The alleged violation was breach of confidentiality. In case number 25103, the complaint committee moves to dismiss due to insufficient evidence to support the initiating complaint.
Ask questions.
That one was like an anonymous complaint, and the complaint was so vague that we really couldn't find anything that was actionable, that there wasn't enough evidence for us to do anything.
All in favor of dismissal? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, and finally, case number 25-104. The alleged violation was essentially a fraudulent report to CPS. Also kind of a custody issue. Someone was upset about a report being made and thought that the social worker had made this report. The social worker basically said, I don't know this person. And also, if they did report something, I would have to do that as a mandated reporter, but I don't even know who this is. So, in case number 25104, the complaint committee moves to dismiss due to insufficient evidence to support the initiating complaint.
Also, too, the social worker is no longer an employee of DCBS, and has been employed with DCBS since 2017.
So quite some time. Yeah.
And allegation goes back to 2024. It wasn't recent. All in favor of dismissal? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We have one other issue for the board to consider. This would be the board initiating a complaint. You know, the board has the prerogative to initiate a complaint when we find discrepancies along the way. We have a licensee who appears to be practicing without a license, had a temporary permit, and it looks like the temporary permit has been altered to show the person is still licensed. So we're asking for the board for authorization to initiate a board complaint for this person.
Just for clarification, someone else altered it, not the board, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, it looks like the licensee has done it, but we don't know, but that's what it looks like.
Do we know what time period, like when I'm assuming they've exceeded the expiration date, like when did it expire and how long have they been operating on this?
It expired in May.
Expired in May.
And they have altered the date from May 2025 to May 2026.
See, okay.
Which is their temporary license is for 180 days. You can renew it once for 180 days. So May of 20. This was you can do the math. All in favor of initiating the complaint?
Aye.
Kelly? Hear that? Okay, all right, okay.
This is Mark. This is Mark. May I interject and make two comments, please? On that last case that you voted to do a complaint on, you do have to get to the truth of the matter and follow your process, and you are. I've had just a couple of cases in my career of an individual otherwise forging or altering a certificate or a renewal or a license. And I just want to say my favorite one was when you asked what made you think the license was altered or otherwise faked on the Kentucky board's license or credential. And the response was, well, the word Kentucky was misspelled. That was a tip off right there. So we're going to investigate, we will initiate a complaint and get their response and see how that goes. Also, on the very last case you dismissed, I just want to bring to the board's attention, that is almost a kind of classic case of true mistaken identity, I would say, because the social worker's response was, this individual was never my client. I don't recognize their name. I've looked at my records. I was never their therapist. And they complained about alleged misconduct that occurred in 2024 at a certain place of employment, DCBS, and I haven't worked there since 2017. That's what you would call almost a case of mistaken identity. It's not me, it must be somebody else, because I couldn't have done that in 2024. I haven't worked there since 2017. Mistaken identity.
And those before.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to old business, ASWB. Whitney and I was able to go to the delegate assembly. Any comments, Whitney?
I think it was a successful meeting. Kentucky was well represented there. There was a lot of discussion about the compact legislation and that process. I'm trying to think of anything else specifically. It was a good opportunity to network with our colleagues across jurisdictions all through the United States and Canada. It was a great meeting, and I will encourage other board members anytime you're available to attend one of the meetings. I encourage you to consider doing that because it's a great opportunity to get involved and also to meet a lot of people and learn from each other. That's always one of the best parts for me is talking with other people in other jurisdictions to just discuss how different, there are different ways of doing things and what works in some places and what, it's just always an interesting time to share information.
There's the business meeting and then the day before the business meeting starts, which there's a good way to exchange information there, but the day before is an optional day. And Whitney and I both always attend that because that's more specifically geared. There's two separate groups, one for the administrators, like for Mark Kelly and others, and that, and then for board members, and a lot of exchange, a lot of information. There was some focus in both groups, I think, this time on supervision. So it was interesting to hear from other states how lack of supervision happens. And, kind of like we're kind of ahead of that curve and have been for a number of years, which is interesting. I've heard one state this time was the first time they are requiring ethics for their licensees. I had not done that before. So, and it's good to hear from other boards and how things are doing it. Or things that work and not work. There was an interesting discussion. You can check with administrators on supervision that I've got to sit in for part of. So cool. It's good. Good. Thank you. Look at that to get other members. If you want to attend those meetings, please consider it ahead of time. It's a good way to network. IT, we did a little bit of IT during the operations report. Just wanted to go back to contracts again because we didn't mention that. Making sure that everybody understands how that's working. Electronic supervisions, you got to hit the save and close at the bottom.
Yeah, if you want a copy of your electronic contract, you have to hit save, close, and close. And that'll save it to PDF for you. Right. When you utilize that, feature. But I keep PDF copies of everybody's contract.
Yeah, so you can always get it. You can always get it from the office.
Yeah, you can always get it from us, but if you want to save your own, like just look at the bottom of the page and it'll say save and close.
You should have your own PDF. Hopefully keep that. I would recommend everybody, the licensee as well as the supervisor of record, keep a copy of that. But we keep a copy here for that. Next step would be trying to do the as this works out to the documentation of experience. Yes. So next phase. Now, social work compact. the day before the day of the delegate assembly, we had the first annual social work compact meeting all day. It was a very good meeting. We adopted one rule, which you'll see down under regulations. And lots of discussion about the data system and issues around payment, how that's going to be. We adopted a draft budget to our fiscal year. The fiscal year for the compact will be July 1 to June 30th. So the next steps are to finalize the MOU, the memorandum of understanding with ASWB for funding for the compact. And which the biggest funding piece that starts is the data system. And then getting that started, a vendor's already been selected. So getting that piece going, because that has to be in place before. A lot of discussion around how notifications will go out to the member states. Under the compact, that's part of why part of the data system is that a home state can issue, it's like we did today on our licensees or our complaint system, if that person also has a multi-state license, then we could, because their state license becomes encumbered, it's a settlement agreement or however it works, and there's some kind of an encumbrance on that license, the state board, as a home state, could encumber the license, which means the multi-state license can be affected. And the home state, if they affect multi-state license, they can restrict somebody's practice in all other states. That's, and it's supposed to be an immediate notification. So there was a lot of debate about how immediate is immediate. When things move the way we move and stuff, and how that's gonna work, what if it happens on Friday and it's not till Monday, all those kinds of things got brought up. So you can imagine there's lots of interesting scenarios, because then you flip it around, it's like the remote state, another state could encumber the multi-state license in that state only, but then it has to be notified back to all the states, including the home state. So, like I said, there's some interesting debates going on about when you say the law says immediate, so well, immediate is how immediate is immediate, and how do you do that, and that kind of stuff. So a lot of that. We did have a first. South Carolina passed the compact law, but they made numerous substantial changes to the law. And so basically the compact commission had to decide what to do. So we're sending a letter to South Carolina to say, you need to amend your law before you can participate in the compact. The way compacts work, you can't make a lot of substantial changes. You have to agree with what all the other states agreed to. And they were, just to give you an example, one of the things they want to do is change the makeup of the executive committee. Well, it's already done. You can't go back and start making your own rules on stuff like that. So there was a whole long report on that. So if you want to read it, you can. But anyway, we couldn't admit South Carolina. It's kind of like, we want other states to participate. So we're hoping that they can amend the statute and become part of the compact. There's 4 other jurisdictions that have pending. We also discussed a little minor detail. We are discussing how to, we have, everybody knows about SIPAC. Okay, so we were trying to come up with something that was more like for the social work. So we came up with SWIC, SWIC, Social Work Interstate Compact. So we're looking into if we can make that a business mark or something for the compact, so that in the future we can say SWIC and everybody knows what it means. So we don't say social work license compact. Well, so they're coming up with a little, little logo kind of thing that we can start doing as far as putting it on publications and stuff, so it's a little more recognizable on that. So that was, so the attorney was also tasked with doing that, doing the research on trying to find that. So anyway, back home a little bit, we're closer, the survey that we discussed about surveying our licensees to see what interest there was in the compact. As of Friday, there was 1,171 respondents to that survey. Of course, overwhelmingly in favor of getting the multi-state license. One of the questions was to how, because that's the other question is, what fee do we set? And they didn't have any particular feedback on that, but they do want it to be corresponding to the same 3-year cycle that we do. Every state can do something different. And so we wanted to make sure that they wanted to. So when we start, we'll probably have to figure out a system that, it's like my license doesn't renew until 28. So I would have to have some kind of prorated thing to put it on the same cycle. So all those little things that we have to figure out. So anyway, so that's out there. So any questions about the compact at this point?
My question's not so much about the compact, but since we're on the topic of ASWB and you're at the ASWB conference, I was posed the question recently. I was hoping to get some clarification. Since the the LCSW exam is technically administered by the ASWB, if there were someone who were needing reasonable accommodations, would that be something that the Kentucky board, or they would need to go to the ASWB as far as that?
Directly to ASWB. They have a whole setup for accommodations. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That's what I was thinking, but I want to make sure I didn't tell them wrong.
Oh, yes. No. You know that because and we want people to request those accommodations.
And they've,
Like the word gets out there.
I think, Hank, if I may, didn't they say they've recently revamped that process for how they approve accommodations to try to make it more user friendly? Because that was something they were concerned about, is that people were maybe saying that it was hard to do. And I think they've tried to streamline that process. And I asked it at the meeting, I said, do we have any data yet about how many people have we seen an uptick in the number of people requesting accommodations? Do we have any data about how that, might impact the outcome? And they don't have that data yet, but I'm guessing that they're collecting that. So that is something that is, we're getting attention.
Well, I know when I attended the ASWB, one of the things they mentioned was that there are some states that don't allow for certain accommodations as well. So I don't know where this person is from, Cohen, but if they're from Kentucky, that's probably not going to be an issue. But it was New York, actually, if the one that sticks out the most to me. Like you have to be, for example, they don't offer it in any other language. You have to take it in English.
Yeah,
New York.
That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some other things that, like certain accommodations, they did not. And I don't know how they get around ADA. I don't know anything about that, but I know there are certain accommodations that some states do not recognize.
Right. Under ASWB, you get a person with, if English is not their first language, they can give 2 dictionaries to help with that. So, it's an accommodation. Fifth Theory, that's on the website, ASWB website. That's to help people get into the framework of taking the exam. They said there was a lot of good uptake on that. They were glad to hear that. So, and the blueprint for the next phase of that's still in process. So how that's gonna go. One of the things that, they did note that, they had talked about doing a modular thing, because there's 4 domains and if you pass 2, you don't have to take those again. They found in the research that was not going to be workable. It actually increased the failure rate. So, it's like, well, we don't want to do that. So, but there's a lot of data that they're putting together, so as we see the new one come out, I don't remember what year was it. Whitney, was it next year? Was it going to come out next year or following year?
Was it 2027, I think?
I don't remember now what it was. There were so many dates they threw out. There was one of August the 26th. I think they were going to start something, and then in 27th. Anyway, but a lot of stuff about the exam was discussed too at the meeting.
We should also comment for our board members, but also anyone watching who's a licensee. They are soliciting applications for item writers for the exam.
Yes.
And please put your name in the hat if you're interested. And I think they pay people.
They do. It is a paid position. Yeah.
It is, and it's a misconception that the people that work at the ASWB or are on the board are the ones that write the exam questions. That's not at all accurate. So just, if you're interested in that, please consider applying to do that.
They also have a training that's free online, the ASWB website, that kind of talks to you about how to write a good question that you can do. I actually had asked our faculty last year at UPike to take the training just so that they could learn, a little bit more about the questions and stuff. So yeah, I got great feedback from them. So
Good.
I have a follow-up, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on something that's more ASWB than us. But do you know, like, if someone had like test anxiety or something like that, is there a doctor's note required, or like what kind of documentation would they have to give to show that they need an accommodation?
I don't know for sure. I'm almost certain that it would require some kind of documentation from a medical or a mental health provider if they're requesting an accommodation for a mental health issue.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, on to regulations. You have the equivalency. We looked at this once before. And the only change we made at that time in the draft was the spell out, Council on Social Work Education in the beginning. And then adding section 3 limitations on equivalency. And so I don't know if we were ready to pass that one and let Mike start the process on this or not. Any other changes on this one at this point? Hearing done. The motion to adopt for changes, submit for rate change.
Or do we need?
Need a motion,
Yeah, so I'll move to accept that regulation draft.
second.
Okay, second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
You already got a copy, right? Okay. Mike? Second one is the per diem. These are the easy ones. Per diem, I don't know whether there's any changes needed. It's pretty straightforward. It's not due till June, but we can put it in the same group as this one. Unless anybody wants to up the per diem by law, by statute, it's 125, right? So we can't go above 125. It's 100 right now. We could go to 125 or anything in between, obviously. Or we just leave it the same.
What are other boards paying for their per diem? Are they doing the maximum?
Some are, some aren't.
How often can this be changed?
Well, we can change the rate pretty much anytime we want to initiate it, and they're due every 7 years.
To clarify, we can pay up to 125. We're not at our max. We're not reimbursing at our max rate.
Correct.
Even have to change the reg if we did want to increase the per diem. Is that correct?
Correct. I didn't see anything else in the reg, or if anybody else saw anything else in the reg that would be potentially needed to be changed. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. You have any strong issues with them leaving it the same or going up?
Part of me says, given cost of living and those issues, that perhaps we should be paying out the max. Which is why I asked what other boards were doing. And I'm sure we've probably not increased this in years, but I also don't want that to sound self-serving either, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. It does,
Yes.
because I mean, it hasn't changed. I looked back and don't think it's ever changed. It was set this back in like 2007, I think. It hasn't changed since. So, but.
Well,
since it-
yeah,
Has cost of living has gone up a little bit since 2007.
just a smidgen.
So it would be out of reason to consider, I mean, $25 ain't a whole lot anyway.
But it is $25, right?
It is
And if you're
$25.
traveling, it helps with, yeah.
It does.
Cost of food because we don't have our meals reimbursed and stuff. It does
Right.
get taxed also.
It does get taxed, yes. I
Yeah.
would say that we should increase that to the max. At the risk of it sounding self-serving, I think we should increase that to the max.
I'd also support this just by the fact that currently our finances are in a pretty decent state. Of course, that's
Absolutely.
today, and who knows
Right.
what that look like. Which is why I was asking the question, how often could this be changed? But based off of today, it seems like it would be appropriate to make that change.
All right. Need a motion and a second to make that change and send it to rules.
I'll make the
Committee.
motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? No, okay, all right, thank you very much. I don't know if you read the rule on ex officio members for the compact, but we're the only state out of the 30 that has to send it for a reg. Just FYI, but we do. We can't change it or whatever. It has to be adopted as is because it comes from the compact, but it has to be sent for reg adoption under, what was it, 1012?
Think so.
012 is our compact reg, which will list all the rules by name. And then anybody can get a copy of it. Anybody can get a copy of it once it's approved on the social work website too. So again, formally, we just need a motion to adopt the reg and send it to LRC. Motion to adopt, need a motion? and a second.
I'll move that we adopt the reg and send it onto the LRC.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Sorry, we can't do a whole lot, whatever it is. So anyway, all in favor? Aye.
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 Officially posted, officially. Like to restart work on that, sure.
So just to clarify that,
Yeah.
that per diem will not be changed until the reg is sent in, approved, and
Yeah.
ratified, all the things.
Right, that'll be about 6 months down the road.
Wait, maybe I misunderstood, but our current reg says we can pay up to $125. We're just not.
Yeah, we're just.
We don't actually have to change the reg to increase the per diem, do we?
Yeah,
that little
We have to
section
we have to
right there.
change the reg. It says we can pay it up to 25, but down below it says we only pay 100.
I gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
This is Mark, and without having those statutes in front of me, I think the statute says the board may pay a per diem up to 125. And the reg right now says the board shall pay 100. So the statutory cap is 125 and the reg says 100. So it would be lawful to amend the reg to go to $101 or 102. Anything up to 125, you can't exceed what the statutory cap is. So Whitney, you're mostly correct by saying you can pay up to 125, but you just have to change the reg to do it. The cap is 125 by statute.
By statute, correct. Thank you. All right, moving on to the legislation. Got the discussion that Mark and have had with Children's Alliance, gave you the breakdown, the acceptable ones, and kind of question ones, and kind of bring you up to date on those parts. Where it says not to include activities, practice of psychology. They've accepted our language for that, not to include activities, the practice of psychology under KRS 319 spot, except for what's permitted under KRS 319. So they've accepted that change. The definition of telehealth, I gave you both definitions. I think it'd be best if I think we can accept the definition in 211. Unless we want to, I suggested, because that language is also contained in other statutes, that those be updated, but yeah, that probably won't happen. But anyway, it's just pointing out that the definition we were using is still out there in other statutes. But that may not happen. Then the same thing with practice of psychology, that it needs to also be added to the professional counseling. Right, but again, those statutes probably won't get changed. It's just pointing out that those statutes need to be updated as well. So I think, if there's any discussion on that part before we get to the last one. No, okay, all right, sweet deal, all right. You got the proposed, we talked about the provisional permit the last time. We still have groups that are opposed to that. So in trying to, you saw what came back from that group, which is like, and it's kind of like the most egregious ones, is kind of like requiring the board to report to the education. I'm not even sure that's even legal. Mike Nichols can comment on that part. But it's a very expansive one. And so when Mark Kelly and I met, we came up with a compromise one that I sent out to everybody. So need to decide about that.
I was just gonna share that I liked the compromise that you guys came up with that allowed for the exemption for non-clinical work, but also required the permit for clinical work. I think that's the best option that we can put out there that satisfies all parties and still protects the public and social workers as well.
Agreed.
Great.
Great. There you go. Good, thank you. I guess we'll go with that. The other issue we've been asked about was about supervision, which is a big issue. A blanket exemption would mean the board has no say about supervision at all, in which case you're leaving it up wholly to the educational institution and practice location as to who the supervisor is and what are their qualifications and how often they do it, et cetera, et cetera. There's also that issue of no scope of practice. And we all know that under the standards for MSW programs, the requirement for a supervisor is that MSW is 2 years with not any necessarily background in clinical work. So the compromise is where we were coming from, is trying to answer and respect those kinds of issues so that we can protect the public, because that's our goal. So thank you for your support on that amendment. Any questions or comments? I don't know if you, Mark, if you wanted to add.
Well, I mean, it's proposed that we have weigh in on supervision and what that means, and we are weighing in with regulation.
Yeah, that's our, and we've been asked repeatedly for guidelines for what students can do, the permit and the regulations that would be the guidelines, right?
Right.
That's what you, okay.
Yeah. So that's what the guidelines are.
That's what, I mean, our board's been asked for that before. Of course, I remember reading back, I worked in community mental health center, always asking that question and never really getting a clear answer. It was always vague. It was always, so I think this is an option that gives us that and helps. That I think it helps the schools. I think it helps placements. It helps all of that. So that's, in all this discussion, since the last time I was thinking, and I go back to when we talked about, we had this ad hoc committee, when we set up that ad hoc committee, which was what, 2 years ago now, or a year ago, was it 24? We had a student representative on that committee. Well, they dropped off and we never got a replacement. Of course, the committee didn't meet long, it met 4 or 5 times, and then, but anyway, I thought, you know, we still haven't asked the students. You know, what do you think? So, I had a colleague and I go, I said, you have students? And she said, yeah, I do. I said, well, let me pose some questions and you pick one and, send it to your students and let them answer anonymously, and I ain't gonna, you know, so that, well, I'll have that. So she did. And the question is this: if an MSW practicum students in a clinical setting were allowed to carry a small supervised caseload, just enough to apply what they're learning, and receive weekly supervision to review every case in depth, how might that structure help students learn more effectively while ensuring clients are protected? Student 1. I think it would be marvelous to have the opportunity to apply what I have learned in school before actually starting MSW level employment. This would allow me to be more readily able to fulfill all job requirements necessary for MSW level employment. Consumers could be individuals who are identified to be at a more stable current presentation. It would ensure that the consumers I am assigned will not be underserved while I'm on school breaks, as they would in theory only need to be seen once a month. I feel that a consumer would also need to be someone who understands that their provider is a student and will change frequently due to the length of the practicum placements. So that was one student. Second student: my internship is going very well. As a clinical intern, my prior experience in my undergrad was not beneficial. Just reading what's written here. However, being here, I found it rewarding to have people who can guide me and help me learn what I need to do to become a great social worker. If an MSW internship included a small caseload, it would be helpful for the student to engage more with the consumers and build rapport with them. I've witnessed other clinicians and how their clients react towards them. And it is beneficial for a student intern to learn how to engage in treatment plans and one-on-one sessions. Small caseload would also help consumers on the caseload receive more attention than those in larger groups, as the student intern would have more of a flexible schedule. If they continue to work at the same place, they could also continue therapy with other clinicians. I would also benefit from having a small caseload of my own to expand my knowledge and my future career in mental health. Having a caseload would allow clinical interns to gain hands-on experience with consumers and also benefit from developing clinical skills and competencies. Having a small caseload during internship would be beneficial than learning how to handle a larger caseload after graduation. So anyway, this will be a couple of things for students, which I talked about. Probably something that we should have thought of earlier and didn't. But so anyway. That's that. Any other questions on that? Sorry. Any other questions on the legislation? Because Mark and I will be meeting this week to hopefully try to finalize this. Just FYI, it may come down to that both the exemption and the compromise, both that neither one gets included in the bill at all. So just so you know.
Which I think would be a travesty.
Well, yeah.
A huge injustice to our students, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta know at Pikeville, you involve the students and they, you can tell us what they said, in Pikeville.
Oh, yeah, our students were absolutely, we've just had several conversations with them and they came to the KASWE sessions we had and they were in support. They thought it was a great idea. It really felt like it was going to give them more of an opportunity to actually practice than what they've had. Did not hear a single student complain about the provisional license. They had lots of questions. They wanted to know more about it, but nobody was upset about it. So I think that's very telling.
I think it is too. I'm thinking all of us in different groups, we probably should have done more to involve them earlier on than we
Sure.
did. So, yeah. Anyway. Live and learn, I guess. Do, need a formal motion to adopt the compromise? Let's have a formal motion to adopt the compromise statement on the license. Provisional.
The move.
permit.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? All right,
Aye.
Aye.
officially passed. Thank you all very much. You have the list of meeting dates for next year. Let's finalize some of this. There's some conflict for some of us for March, so I'm suggesting maybe we can do the retreat in February. We liked March because it's social work month, but I think Cindy and I and Laura, some conflicts getting the dates. So that's why we're suggesting maybe February, or obviously you could go to April. I forgot to look up for April. I meant to look up the date for Easter, but if anybody happens to know that. I put down the second Monday, but we talked about switching to the third Monday. And this year, the education meeting, Whitney, is in April instead of May.
Yeah, I saw that. I personally would rather we don't plan anything else in April, because April is like the end of our
Right.
semester, and it is, yes, it's Easter, it's at the education meeting, it's,
It's why we were looking, when we were having these conflicts about March dates, it's like, well, let's just go back to February rather than going
February,
forward.
yeah.
You know, because then you get May, you get to that, so that's why we're looking at, let's just do it in February. Do we want to do the second Mondays, or third Mondays?
I may be the one that requested to move it to the third Monday because I have a conflict every second Monday, but am I remembering that right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I think so, Whitney. I think so.
The third Monday in January is actually Martin Luther King Day, so we don't want to do that. But in general, the third Monday would be better for me. But if other people have a conflict with that, that's, I'm open to discussion or whatever you all want.
Do both, either or, because we've done both this last year, So yeah, today's third Monday.
Does Monday still work best for everybody? We used to meet on Tuesday, and I think at one point we moved to Mondays. For some of us like me, it works better if we have to travel, and sometimes I don't travel, but if I do, I can just be there on the weekend and then be there and go back home.
Monday works best for me because of travel.
Yeah.
Because I do have to travel, so if Monday works just better,
Okay.
Tuesday is, I like Mondays. So you want to do?
Better, yeah.
I'm sorry, Cindy?
But as Mondays are better as somebody that has to travel a lot as well.
So if we want to do the 12th because of the 19th, that would be January's meeting. All right, February,
So we could do February 16th and have the board retreat on the 15th.
correct. And we were talking about doing this time, maybe doing the retreat in Louisville, either contact Louisville or Spalding, either one. Do it in Louisville. So the 16th with the retreat on the 15th, everybody okay with that?
It should work.
Did work, okay. All right.
So
on.
that's Sunday and Monday to clarify, right?
Yes.
Okay.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
That work for you? Does that work for you, Laura?
Yeah, it should.
Okay.
Just,
All right.
I'll just say this out loud, and Louisville is a great location for me. But just in case it's not on anybody's radar, Valentine's Day is Saturday the 14th.
I just gotta say that there before you go on, so I don't know.
I mean, I'm centrally local. I'm in Louisville, so it doesn't impact me too much. But for those of you that got to travel the day before, just put it out there.
Yeah.
What time would the retreat start? Like what part of the day?
Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. We usually go like 9 to 4 on Sunday. So traveling on, I'll have to go up I think on Valentine's Day.
Hmm.
So maybe we go the night.
Maybe if that wouldn't cause anyone any problems.
That'd be fine.
Okay, yeah, all right, got it. All right, March, any preferences? 16th or the 9th?
Either is
Perfect.
fine for me.
I'm sorry,
Either is fine for me.
I would probably prefer the 16th.
all right, let's go 16th, April.
Wait, you know what? Maybe I should, that's maybe not a great idea because the 15th is Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I'm probably gonna want to be with my family and not traveling on Mother's Day.
Wait, are we talking about March?
No,
Talking about March.
That's May.
Oh, well, why does it say, oh, it's in the UK. Excuse me. I'm looking at, it's Mother's Day in the UK on March 15th.
Mother's Day somewhere.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yes.
So, 16th, March 16th, that's the third Monday. April, and then May would be the 18th.
Okay, April is, if the 20th of April is right after we get back from,
That's what I was gonna say. I would think we would need to move to the 13th on that one because of the education meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So May 18th, because then we avoid Mother's Day there, okay?
wait, May the 18th, you said?
Yes, that would be the third Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, June,
What are we landing for April?
April 13th,
Okay.
June 15th?
June, yeah. 15th. July,
My calendar didn't go that far.
gonna stick with the third Monday, except for December. I think December the 21st might not work out too well for the third Monday.
If it said July 20th, so I could mark it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, sorry.
What I'm asking is, if we wanna stick with, we're in May, we're on the third Monday. If we go third Monday, we could go third Monday all the way to December, but I'm not too sure about the third Monday of December because that's pretty close to Christmas.
I think we do go ahead and do third Monday and then in December do the 14th.
To the 14th, okay.
I
All right.
agree.
Okay, got it. All right, so I have, correct me, January 12th. Retreat 8, 9 of February. 16th of March, 13th of April, 18th of May, 15th of June, 20th of July, 17th of August, 21st of September, 19th of October, 16th of November, and the 14th of December.
Sounds correct.
All right, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all right, any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. Whoa,
Aye.
we got our meeting days for the whole year. Life changes, but anyway, okay, under new business, I only have one new item that again on the agenda. Is that we had the licensee that the applicant that we denied application, of course, with the hearing setting, and they've requested the hearing, so Mark Brinkman, if that's all right, maybe we can do that next meeting. If everybody's okay, we can put that on the agenda for the December meeting and notify the applicant and see if we can do that. Questions? Okay. Thank you. And that's, again, the first time I can remember that we've had to be in this situation, but again, due process, making sure they have the chance to make sure they can come and explain to us, what was going on to see if we can find a way. It's not like we're absolutely saying no ever. So they have a chance to come. So we'll have that next Monday, next meeting, probably try to keep the agenda a bit shorter to try to allow time for time for the applicant to make their case for us. Okay, ready for announcements? You had your hand up.
I was just gonna ask a couple
Okay,
questions.
sure.
Circling back to the legislation draft, specifically the provisional license for students.
Yeah.
With that new adoption that you all voted on, does that mean that the language has also been updated and or changed to where this only applies to MSW students in clinical settings? Or is it still written in there that it applies to VSWs and all
It would
MSWs?
be updated to the new language.
And how are we going to address the lack of LCSWs to provide supervision?
Well, according to our information, we have plenty of LCSWs. We have
Did we ask the LCSWs if they would be willing to meet this need for our students? Because I understand we have.
Right now, let's separate that out. One, it says permit. It doesn't say that it has to be an LCSW. That would be in the regulation.
Okay,
So that would be the proper time to ask that question for the LCSWs. Okay, does that help? Yeah, the language would have to be updated. Change the other language too, so all of it would have to be updated.
I was just wondering, cause I work for an agency now. They would take a caseload, then the agency wouldn't be able to bill insurance or Medicaid, correct? Because
They can't right now.
yeah, right.
They can't right now either. So, and we can't,
Yeah.
we don't do payments. So however that's done, it's up to the
Yeah.
agency.
Cause our students now don't carry caseload, obviously.
Even if the
Yeah.
change were made, it still would be.
Yeah,
it was
they still wouldn't be.
I
Yeah.
still doubt that they can bill Medicaid. I still doubt that.
I wish they could if there was someone sitting there.
Well,
Oversight, like an LCSW
Well,
overseeing.
with my other hat on, I would agree. However, that would take a change
It's
in
just so
Medicaid
hard.
rate.
That's why we barely can take students right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a question I think Sydney, he asked that question before too, and it's like,
Yeah,
and she and I discussed that. Yeah, that's probably a possibility, but that's outside of our
Yeah,
range. That would
right.
be-
I just
And I would, to a certain extent, I would hope that. If this change was made, that change would be made too, to. See what happens. No questions? You're good. Okay, that's good. Okay, anybody has announcements or anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we can talk about it later. I just had another thought about to the first person's comment about just the challenges sometimes that schools may face in identifying an LCSW to serve as a supervisor. We are aware of that. That could be a challenge. I mean, I do wonder if we go down this road, could we still give the option for students, even in a clinical practicum, to not have that provisional permit so that they're just essentially allowed to do what they're allowed to do now, which is to not be one-on-one doing any kind of clinical work with a client. It's that if they want to take that extra step and be doing a little bit more, then they would need to have an LCSW supervisor.
But that wouldn't meet CSWE
Ah,
requirements though, right? Because they have to be doing so much clinical work if it's a
gotcha.
clinical concentration.
Yeah, if it's a clinical track, they would have to do the clinical work.
So, they need this experience
Yeah, they
with
do.
clinical work. Yeah.
Well, and the challenge that we keep saying is we don't want we certainly don't want to keep students from having the experience, but we also don't want to allow students to be practicing with more scope and breadth than a CSW. CSWs don't practice independently, and
Right.
CSWs do not supervise each other. So a CSW should not really be the clinical supervisor for a student or anyone else.
Well, there was some discussion at the KASWE, Whitney, if there couldn't be some allowances for other clinically licensed folks as well, as long as there was, a social worker who could reinforce that
Yeah.
social work perspective. So I think there are many options around. That's what we had hoped to do with a work group, which I think we still may end up doing, just not the way we had thought we would. But yeah, I think there's some possibilities there for us to make sure that everybody is still covered, appropriate supervision is given, and that the social work perspective is reinforced.
And again, go back to making sure that our LCSWs who don't have a full supervision caseload right now, there's nothing we can do to say that they have to supervise a student right now or a CSW right now. That we can't make a supervisor take 6 people, even though the regulation allows it, we can't make them take 6 people. If they're only comfortable with 2, then that would be a prerogative that we might not want to go down. But like you said, other options that we could consider in the regulation process. With the work group, yeah.
I think we have a lot of room to do some really cool, creative, fringe stuff.
The only announcement I have is like, and I'll come at it from the fact that I'm a member of NASW. I don't, there's nobody, I got an email from the national office saying that there was gonna be a dual executive directors. And didn't know what that meant, but what I've heard, unfortunately, it's not official, so, but again, it appears that Kentucky chapter won't have its own ED that looks like what I've been told is that we would be combined with Ohio. So I don't know what that means. So if anybody, but from a member's perspective, it's like, what happened? And then, like I said, I got this nice email from the national president, but it's like, what does that mean? If you're gonna have dual executive directors, which 2 states, and I understand, again, scuttlebutt was that there was 14 different chapters that were affected. Kentucky was one of them. So they should hear that happened is, I don't know what of that other than it happened, but I don't know what exactly that means, other than because there's been no communication, local membership as to what that means. So I feel bad about that because I'm a member of NASW. Anyway, but that's the way it goes. Changes sometimes happen. That's all. Motion to adjourn.
This is Mark. This is Mark. May I ask a question about December?
Yeah.
If you want to have a denial of license application hearing, you do have to give 20 days notice and you do have to have a hearing officer available. I don't know whether there's a hearing officer available on that day with this shorter notice. Do you want to try for it, or do you want to just say we can do it the 12th of January?
If not, we'll have to do it in January, or see if you can get a hearing date on one of our dates.
Okay, let's try to get a hearing date on any one of our dates, and we can maybe start at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, true. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think Janessa made the motion. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Aye.
Thank y'all for being here.
Happy Thanksgiving all.
Good night.